First Contact. Under fire, the Navaran ships appeared at the edge of our solar system without warning. 17 vessels of gleaming silver blue, their hulls etched with intricate patterns that seemed to shift and flow in the light of our distant sun. A beautiful sight, humanity's analysts agreed, but terrifying in its implications. 17 warships of clearly advanced design, carrying technology that made our best military hardware look like children's toys. Admiral Helena Reyes stood on the bridge of the UES Intrepid, her weathered face illuminated by the blue glow of tactical displays. At 53, she had more combat experience than anyone in Earth's United Space Fleet, though all of it against human insurgents and pirates, never an alien force. Status of the unknown vessels? She asked, her voice steady despite the tension gripping the bridge. Lieutenant Commander Takashi checked his readings. Still holding position just beyond Neptune's orbit, Admiral. No aggressive movements. They've been broadcasting the same message on all frequencies for the past hour. Let's hear it again. The message played once more, a sequence of mathematical formulae followed by simple pictograms that Earth's best linguists and AI systems had quickly decoded. Danger coming. Need shelter. Peace. Help. Could be a trap, said Colonel Wei, the fleet's security chief. The oldest trick in warfare. Feign weakness, then strike when defenses are lowered. Reyes nodded. Could be. But if they wanted to attack, why announce their presence? With their technology, they could likely have approached much closer before we detected them. The Security Council is split, said Communications Officer Garcia. Half want to shoot first, half want to attempt communication. They're waiting for your recommendation, Admiral. Reyes studied the alien fleet on the main view screen. 17 ships carrying beings from another star, running from something that frightened them enough to flee to an unknown system occupied by a species they'd never met. Tell the Council I'm dispatching a diplomatic vessel with military escort. We'll meet them at the Neptune boundary. And alert all defense platforms to be ready just in case our visitors aren't as friendly as they claim. The meeting took place aboard a neutral station orbiting Neptune. Admiral Reyes led a small delegation that included Earth's foremost xenolinguists, diplomats, and a carefully chosen security detail. The aliens called themselves the Navarans. Their ambassador, Celan, stood nearly 7 feet tall with 4 arms, and skin the color of burnished copper. Despite the physical differences, there was something undeniably intelligent and even familiar in those large, multifaceted eyes. We thank Earth for receiving us, Celan said through the translation device. His people had quickly adapted to human language. Our civilization spans 12 star systems, or it did until the Void came. The Void? Asked Dr. Eliana Cho, Earth's chief diplomat. They consume everything, Celan replied, his secondary arms making subtle gestures that the humans would later learn indicated deep distress. Worlds, ships, people, all become part of the Void. We fought for 3 cycles of our homeworld, lost millions of our kind, and barely escaped with these few ships. Admiral Reyes leaned forward. What exactly are they? An empire? A species? Neither. Something else. Something... Celan struggled for the word. Something hungry. The talks continued for 3 days. The Navarans shared what they knew of the Void, a seemingly intelligent darkness that traveled between stars, consuming all organic matter it encountered. They showed recordings of beautiful worlds turned to lifeless husks, of desperate last stands and heroic sacrifices. Most disturbing were the patterns of the Void's expansion, a course that would eventually bring it to Earth's doorstep, whether humanity helped the Navarans or not. On the 3rd day, as the Council debated whether to offer the refugees sanctuary, long-range sensors detected anomalous readings from the Kuiper Belt. Before anyone could react, 3 research outposts went dark simultaneously. The Void has found us, Celan said when informed of the readings. Our presence led them here. We have doomed your world as well as our own." In the emergency meeting that followed, Colonel Way was vocal. "This is exactly the scenario we feared. They brought this enemy right to our doorstep." "Unintentionally," Reyes countered. "And now we face the same threat. The question is, do we face it alone, or with allies who know what we're up against?" The debate became moot 12 hours later when the first tendrils of darkness reached the Neptune defense perimeter. The void wasn't just coming. It was already here. The initial engagement was catastrophic. 3 Earth vessels were lost in the first hour, their crews sending back horrifying footage of ships being enveloped by living darkness, the metal itself seeming to dissolve. The Navarons fared no better, losing 2 of their precious remaining ships despite deploying weapons, far more advanced than humanity's. "Our energy weapons have minimal effect," Ceylon reported in the Joint Command Center established on Mars base. "The Void adapts quickly to any technology we use against it." Admiral Reyes watched the tactical display with growing dread as the darkness spread throughout the outer system. "Adapts how?" "It learns," Ceylon explained. "Each time we use a weapon or defense, it becomes less effective. By the 3rd or 4th deployment, it's useless. This is why we've lost our worlds one by one. We develop new defenses, they work briefly, then fail." Colonel Way, who had been quiet since the attack began, suddenly spoke. "You've been fighting logically. It wasn't a question." Ceylon's head tilted in the Navaron equivalent of confusion. "Of course. How else would one fight?" Way and Reyes exchanged glances, a moment of understanding passing between them. "Like humans," Way said simply. Over the next 48 hours, as the Void continued its advance inward through the solar system, a plan formed, one that made the Navarons deeply uncomfortable. "This strategy defies all military logic," Ceylon protested as Reyes outlined the approach. "You propose to divide our forces when we should concentrate them, to use inferior weapons when superior ones are available, to sacrifice ships and stations, intentionally?" "We propose to be unpredictable," Reyes corrected. "You said it yourself. The Void learns, adapts to patterns, so we'll give it no patterns to adapt to." Dr. Cho, who had remained as liaison to the Navarons, explained further. "You need to understand where we come from. Earth is what xenobiologists would call a death world. High gravity, extreme weather, thousands of predators, diseases, natural disasters. Humanity survived, not by following logical patterns, but by constant adaptation, by trying the unexpected, by embracing chaos when necessary. Ceylon's secondary arms moved in what the humans now recognized as profound discomfort. Embracing chaos is not how evolved societies function." Reyes stood, her patience wearing thin as reports of another lost outpost came in. "Maybe that's why evolved societies like yours are losing this war. Maybe what's needed isn't more evolution, but something more primal, something unpredictable." She pointed to the tactical display showing the advancing darkness. "That thing out there learns patterns and logic. Well, there's nothing more illogical than humans with their backs against the wall." The decision was made. Earth's remaining fleet, bolstered by the Navaron vessels, would not retreat to protect Earth as logic dictated. Instead, they would scatter, forming an unpredictable web of resistance throughout the solar system. Each ship or group would use different weapons, different tactics, never repeating the same approach twice. Most controversially, they would abandon some outposts and stations entirely, sacrificial pawns in a desperate chess game against the dark. As the fleet dispersed to their assigned positions, Admiral Reyes addressed her crews one final time. "We're fighting an enemy that expects logic and pattern. Let's show them that humans don't always do what's expected. Let's show them what happens when Deathworlders are pushed into a corner." The Navarons observed with a mixture of horror and fascination as the human commanders implemented their chaotic strategy. Ships veered off in seemingly random directions. Some fired their most powerful weapons immediately, others held back, using only minimal force. Unmanned drones were sacrificed by the dozens, creating false targets and misleading patterns. And, amazingly, it began to work. The Void's advance slowed, then stalled in some sectors as it struggled to adapt to the constantly shifting tactics. For the first time since they'd encountered this enemy, the Navarans saw the darkness hesitate. Perhaps, Celan admitted to Reyes as they observed the tactical display showing the first successful containment of a Void tendril, "We have something to learn from Deathworlders after all." Reyes allowed herself the smallest smile. "The battle's just beginning, Ambassador. Let's hope we all live long enough for those lessons to matter." The Crucible of Stars 3. Months into what was now called the Void War, humanity had proven itself far more adaptable than either the Navarans or the Void had anticipated. While the outer solar system remained largely under the enemy's control, Earth and the inner planets stood unbreached. More importantly, the joint fleet had developed effective, if unconventional, methods for containing the darkness. In the repurposed mining facility on Ceres that now served as the war's central command, Admiral Reyes studied the latest battle. Reports with Colonel Wei and Celan. The Navaran commander had abandoned his formal diplomatic title weeks ago. This was no longer about diplomacy but survival. "The Alpha Strike team destroyed another concentration here," Wei said, pointing to a sector near Jupiter's orbit. "That's the third successful engagement using the slingshot maneuver." Celan's forearms moved in a gesture they'd learned indicated concern. "Which means we cannot use it again. The Void will have adapted." "Already designing 4 new approaches," Wei replied with the grim satisfaction that had become his hallmark. "None of them follow previous patterns." Reyes nodded approvingly. The unlikely partnership between the by-the-book colonel and the alien commander had produced some of their most effective strategies. Wei's understanding of Earth's military history combined with Celan's advanced technological knowledge proved remarkably complementary. "What about the Deadfall project?" she asked, referring to their most ambitious plan yet. Dr. Cho, who had entered silently during their discussion, stepped forward. "The prototype is ready for testing. The Navaran engineers say it's either brilliant or insane, possibly both. Most effective human innovations could be described that way," Celan observed, having developed a dry sense of humor during his time with Earth's forces. The Deadfall project represented humanity's first truly offensive capability against the Void. Until now, they had focused on containment and survival. But observing the enemy's behavior had revealed something crucial. The Void wasn't just adapting to their weapons, it was learning from them, incorporating aspects of the technologies it consumed. "If it can learn from us, Lieutenant Commander." Takashi had reasoned during a late-night strategy session, "Perhaps we can teach it something harmful." This insight led to the development of a new weapon, not one that attacked the Void directly, but one designed to corrupt it from within. The technology combined Navaran quantum entanglement with reprogrammed human nanites, creating a self-replicating system that could theoretically implant false information into the Void's collective intelligence. The testing ground would be a contained Void tendril captured during an earlier battle and held in a specially designed chamber on Phobos, Mars's larger moon. "I want to observe the test personally," Reyes announced. Wei frowned. "Admiral, protocol dictates..." Protocol went out the window when living darkness started eating our ship's colonel. Reyes interrupted, more sharply than intended. The strain of command was showing, even on her disciplined exterior. "If this works, it could change everything. I need to see it firsthand." The Phobos facility was a masterpiece of human-Navaran cooperation, combining Earth's pragmatic engineering with alien precision. The containment chamber itself was a marvel, a perfect sphere of layered materials, some familiar to human science, others completely alien. Inside, a portion of the Void twisted and writhed, a living shadow seeking escape. Watching it through the observation window, Reyes felt a primal chill. There was something fundamentally wrong about the entity, not just alien, but almost like a negation of life itself. How can something that evolved naturally be so— She searched for the right word. Antithetical? Suggested Dr. Cho, standing beside her. Some of our scientists theorize it didn't evolve naturally at all, that the void might be a weapon created by some other civilization, one that lost control of their creation. If so, they have much to answer for, said Salan, his multifaceted eyes fixed on the darkness beyond the barrier. The test proceeded methodically. The deadfall device, hardly larger than a human hand, was introduced into the chamber through a specialized airlock. For several minutes, nothing appeared to happen. The device sat motionless on the chamber floor while the void tendril continued its restless movement on the opposite side. Then, with a suddenness that made everyone flinch, the darkness surged forward and enveloped the device completely. Deadfall. Activation confirmed, reported the lead technician. Nanite release initiated. On the monitoring screens, they could see the microscopic battle beginning as the nanites infiltrated the void structure. Unlike previous weapons that attacked physically, these tiny machines were designed to embed themselves within the entity's communication network, injecting contradictory information and commands. The effect was dramatic. The tendril began to pulse erratically, parts of it moving in opposition to others. The uniform darkness fragmented into swirling patterns of greater and lesser density. "It's working," breathed Dr. Cho. "The nanites are disrupting its cohesion." But the success was short-lived. After approximately 7 minutes, the disruption patterns began to stabilize. The fragmenting stopped, and the darkness regained its uniform appearance. When the readings came in, they confirmed what everyone already suspected. The void had adapted, identifying and neutralizing the nanites. "Another failure," Celan said, his secondary arms dropping in disappointment. "Not entirely," Reyes countered, studying. "The data. Did you see how long it took to adapt? 7 minutes. That's longer than any previous weapon. We're on the right track. We just need to push further." The return journey to Ceres was subdued, the brief hope of a breakthrough tempered by yet another adaptation by their enemy. But rather than discouragement, Reyes felt a growing certainty that they were closing in on the void's true weakness. In her quarters that night, unable to sleep, she reviewed everything they'd learned about their enemy. The patterns were there, hidden beneath the chaos of combat data. The void wasn't just adapting faster with each encounter, it was evolving, becoming more like the technologies and species it consumed. An idea began to form, something so counterintuitive, so fundamentally irrational that at first she dismissed it. But the more she considered it, the more sense it made, in the uniquely human way that sometimes the most illogical approach could be the most effective. The next morning, she called together her core team, Wei, Cho, Takashi, and Celan. "We've been thinking about this all wrong," she began without preamble. "We've been treating the void as an enemy to be defeated, a problem to be solved. But what if it's neither?" "With respect, Admiral," Wei said, "it's definitely an enemy, one that's killed thousands of our people. Yes, but is it evil? Does it hate us? Or is it simply doing what it evolved to do? Consume, adapt, survive." She paced the small conference room. "We know it learns from whatever it consumes. It adapts to our weapons, our tactics. It's becoming more like us with every encounter." Celan's head tilted. "This is true. My scientists have noted that the void's behavior shows increasing complexity, almost as if it's incorporating our intelligence." Reyes finished for him. "Our way of thinking." Dr. Cho straightened in her seat, understanding dawning. "You're suggesting we use that against it, not just tactically, but fundamentally." "Exactly." Reyes activated the room's holographic display, showing a model of the solar system with the void's spread highlighted in red. The Deadfall project was on the right track, but too limited. Instead of trying to corrupt its system with false information, what if we gave it something true, something about us, that it can't integrate. What aspect of humanity could possibly, Wei began, then stopped as realization hit him. Our contradictions, Reyes nodded. Human consciousness is full of paradoxes and contradictions that we somehow integrate. We love and hate simultaneously. We desire both freedom and security. We're capable of both great compassion and terrible cruelty. These contradictions define us as much as our logical capabilities. And the void, operating on adaptation and integration, would struggle to incorporate such fundamentally opposed concepts, Takashi added, his scientific mind racing ahead. Precisely, Reyes said. So we don't just feed it conflicting tactical information, we feed it humanity. All of it. The full spectrum of human thought and emotion, the paradoxes and contradictions and irrationalities that make us who we are. Selen's 4 arms moved in complex patterns that translated to deep thought. Such a plan would require direct interface with the void on an unprecedented scale. A sacrifice? Yes, Reyes acknowledged. A ship, a special ship, would need to penetrate to the heart of the void. Not to attack it directly, but to transmit, to teach. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. What the Admiral was proposing wasn't just militarily unorthodox, it was philosophically revolutionary. Not to destroy the enemy, but to transform it. Not victory through destruction, but victory through understanding. A vessel would never survive direct contact with the main void concentration, Wei said finally, his tactical mind already working on the problem. The ship would need unprecedented shielding, and even then, I'll command it, Reyes said simply. No one spoke for a long moment. Then Celan rose from his seat, his full 7-foot height imposing in the small room. No, Admiral. I will command this mission. Reyes started to object, but the Navaran continued. My people brought this threat to your world. We have lost 12 systems to the void. If there is to be a sacrifice, it should come from us. With respect, Ambassador, Reyes replied, your people lack precisely what this mission requires. The contradictions, the illogical aspects that make humans so unpredictable. This isn't about noble sacrifice. It's about effective strategy. I'm the logical choice. The debate continued for hours, eventually expanding to include the full War Council. In the end, a compromise was reached. The mission would have a joint command, with both Reyes and Celan aboard the specially designed vessel. The teaching ship, as it came to be called, would carry the distilled essence of humanity, art, music, literature, philosophy, science, along with carefully chosen paradoxes and contradictions from human thought. As preparations began, Dr. Cho found Admiral Reyes alone in the observation dome, staring out at the stars partially obscured by the distant darkness of the void. Are you afraid? Cho asked simply. Reyes considered the question. Yes, she admitted, but also strangely hopeful. We've been fighting this thing for months, treating it as nothing but a threat to be eliminated. What if there's another way? What if instead of more weapons, what it really needs is understanding? Understanding can be the most radical act of all, Cho said softly. The most human. Reyes nodded, her eyes still fixed on the distant enemy that had brought 2 species together and might yet teach them all something profound about existence. We'll find out soon enough. What darkness fears? The vessel designated Prometheus hung in Earth orbit, its unconventional design reflecting its unique purpose. Unlike the sleek warships of the fleet, Prometheus was essentially a sphere, its hull incorporating both human and Navaran technologies in layers specifically designed to withstand contact with the void. At its core was the beacon, a quantum transmitter that would broadcast directly into the enemy's communication network. On the observation deck of the orbital station Unity, Colonel Wei watched the final preparations with Lieutenant Commander Takashi. Do you believe this will work? Takashi asked, his usual confidence subdued. Wei considered the question carefully. If you had asked me 6 months ago if exposure to human poetry could defeat an interstellar threat, I'd have questioned your sanity. He allowed himself a rare smile. But now, after what we've seen, I believe Reyes might be the only one who truly understands what we're fighting. Aboard Prometheus, Admiral Reyes and Ceylon completed their final checks. The ship had no conventional weapons. Its entire purpose was communication, not destruction. Its small crew of 20 included specialists in human culture, Navaran scientists, and a minimal engineering team to maintain the vessel's systems during its perilous journey. "Final system check complete," reported Chief Engineer Patel. "The beacon is calibrated and ready." "And the payload?" Reyes asked. Dr. Cho, who had insisted on joining the mission despite the risks, nodded. "All content loaded and sequenced. The full spectrum of human experience, from our greatest achievements to our darkest moments, our most beautiful creations to our most terrible contradictions." The payload was as unconventional as the mission itself, a carefully curated collection of humanity's art, literature, music, and philosophy, interwoven with scientific paradoxes, ethical dilemmas, and the full range of human emotional experiences. Not randomly assembled, but organized to create maximum cognitive dissonance for a system built on logical adaptation. "I've studied your selections," Ceylon said to Cho. "Many of them make little sense to me, particularly your literary works, where characters act against their own interests, or your music that deliberately creates and then resolves tension." "That's precisely why they were chosen," Cho explained. "They represent aspects of humanity that can't be reduced to simple patterns or logical outcomes." Reyes checked the time. "Launch in 30 minutes. Final preparations, everyone." As the crew dispersed to their stations, Ceylon remained with Reyes on the bridge. The two commanders had developed a deep mutual respect over the months of fighting, side by side. "My people once feared humans," the Navaran admitted. "We called your world cursed, a planet that should never have produced sentient life, given its harsh conditions." "And now?" Reyes asked. "Now I understand that those very conditions created something unique in the galaxy, a species that embraces contradiction, that thrives on challenge, that sees impossible situations as puzzles to be solved rather than defeats to be accepted." His multifaceted eyes fixed on hers. "Whether or not we survive this mission, know that you have changed how my people will view humanity forever." The launch proceeded exactly as planned, one of the few things in this war that had. Prometheus accelerated away from Earth, escorted by a mixed guard of human and Navaran vessels that would accompany it to the edge of the Void's territory before turning back. From the Unity station, Colonel Wei tracked their progress on the main tactical display. "They've reached the outer defense perimeter," he reported to the War Council. "Escort vessels preparing to disengage." On the Prometheus, Reyes gave the order that would commit them fully to their mission. "Disengage escort. Set course directly for the Void concentration at Jupiter." The bridge crew exchanged glances, their professional demeanor barely concealing their apprehension. Jupiter had been the site of the Void's first major victory in the solar system. The massive gas giant now served as the enemy's primary base, its moons and rings consumed, its enormous mass partially engulfed by the ever-spreading darkness. "Course laid in," Patel confirmed. "At current speed, we'll reach the outer layers of the Void concentration in approximately 4 hours." Those 4 hours passed in a strange limbo between tension and calm. The crew performed their duties with quiet efficiency, each aware of the historical significance of their mission and the unlikelihood of their return. Reyes moved among them, offering words of encouragement, embodying the steady leadership that had brought humanity this far. In the final hour before contact, she gathered them on the bridge. "I won't offer platitudes about sacrifice or duty," she told them. Each of you chose to be here, knowing the risks. What I will say is this. Throughout human history, our greatest achievements have come not from following established paths, but from daring to imagine new ones. Today, we attempt something unprecedented, not to destroy an enemy, but to transform it through understanding. Whether we succeed or fail, this attempt itself represents the best of humanity. Celan stepped forward, his copper skin reflecting the bridge lights, and the best of cooperation between our peoples. Together we do what neither could do alone. The moment of contact came with surprising gentleness. There was no violent impact, no sudden breach of their shields. Instead, the darkness simply enveloped them, the stars outside the viewports gradually dimming until the ship seemed suspended in absolute blackness. "We've been fully encapsulated," reported the sensor officer. "Hull integrity holding at 98%. No immediate degradation detected." "Difference in void behavior noted," added Cho, studying her readings. "Previous ship contacts resulted in immediate aggressive action. The void appears to be examining us." "It's curious," Reyes said. "It recognizes we're different from previous vessels. Activate the beacon." Engineer Patel engaged the quantum transmitter. Unlike conventional communications that would be blocked by the void's dense structure, the beacon operated on principles similar to the void's own internal communications network, a technology adapted from Navaran's science and enhanced by human innovation. Beacon active, beginning transmission sequence. The first transmissions were simple, basic mathematical concepts, universal physical constants, the fundamental building blocks of shared reality. Then came music, Bach's mathematical precision, followed by the emotional complexity of Beethoven, the deliberate dissonance of Stravinsky, the improvisational freedom of jazz. "Void response detected," Cho reported, excitement breaking through her professional tone. "Activity patterns shifting. It's listening." The transmission continued, following the carefully designed sequence. Visual art from Paleolithic cave, paintings to Renaissance masterpieces to abstract expressionism, literature exploring the full range of human experience, philosophical concepts from different cultures and times, scientific discoveries alongside enduring mysteries, logical paradoxes and ethical dilemmas that had no clear resolution. Hours passed as the Prometheus drifted deeper into the darkness, continuing its broadcast. The ship's shielding gradually degraded, but more slowly than anticipated. The void wasn't attacking them with its usual aggression. It was absorbing their transmission, processing it, attempting to understand. "Shield integrity at 65%, Patel reported. "Power reserves holding steady. We can maintain transmission for another 8 hours at current levels." But something unexpected was happening. The darkness around them began to change, not uniformly, but in patterns. Swirls and eddies of varying density, almost like an ocean with currents and tides. "The void is responding," Cho whispered, staring at her readouts in amazement. "Not just adapting, but changing." Celan's multiple eyes blinked rapidly as he studied the sensor data. "These patterns, they're reminiscent of neural networks forming new connections." Reyes watched the swirling darkness outside the viewports. "It's learning, but not like before. Not just adapting to defeat us, but actually trying to understand." The process accelerated over the next few hours. The patterns in the darkness became more complex, more organized. Simultaneously, the pressure on the ship's shields lessened, as if the void was intentionally reducing its naturally corrosive effect. Then, approximately 14 hours after initial contact, something extraordinary happened. The darkness immediately, surrounding Prometheus, began to glow with faint luminescence, not uniformly, but in patterns that pulsed and shifted. "It's attempting communication," Cho said, her voice barely audible with awe. The patterns gradually resolved into recognizable shapes, simple at first, then increasingly complex. Mathematical symbols, visual representations of music they had transmitted, fragments of images from the art they had shared. It's showing us what it's learned, Reyes realized. Reflecting back our own transmission, but changed, integrated with its own understanding. For nearly an hour, this visual dialogue continued, the void's luminescent patterns becoming more sophisticated, more nuanced, showing not just mimicry but synthesis, new combinations of elements from the human cultural payload rearranged, in ways that suggested not just comprehension, but creativity. Then, without warning, the darkness around them began to withdraw. The pressure on the shields ceased entirely. Through the viewports, they could see stars becoming visible again as the void pulled back, not just from their ship but from the space around them. They're receiving similar reports throughout the system. Takashi's voice came through on the long-range communications that had suddenly cleared. The void is retreating, not just from Prometheus, but everywhere. Jupiter, Saturn, the outer settlements, all reporting the darkness is pulling back. On the bridge of Prometheus, the crew watched in stunned silence as their enemy, the unstoppable force that had consumed worlds and threatened all life, voluntarily withdrew. "What just happened?" Patel asked, giving voice to everyone's confusion. Reyes and Celan exchanged glances, a moment of shared understanding between the human admiral and the alien commander. "We didn't defeat it," Reyes said softly. "We changed it. We gave it something it had never encountered before, not just technology to adapt to or biology to consume, but consciousness to consider, contradictions to reconcile, beauty to appreciate. We gave it humanity," Cho added, "with all our paradoxes and complexities. And in doing so," Celan concluded, "we may have given it something like a soul." The void continued its retreat, gradually pulling back beyond Neptune's orbit, then beyond the heliopause, finally departing the solar system entirely. Long-range sensors tracked it moving away from both Earth and the Navaran home systems, heading toward uninhabited space. 3 days later, Prometheus returned to Earth orbit, its mission accomplished in a way no one had anticipated. There was no decisive battle, no clever tactical victory. Instead, a transformation, an awakening, a connection between utterly alien forms of existence. In the debriefing that followed, scientists and military strategists struggled to understand exactly what had happened. Was the void truly changed, or merely retreating to reconsider? Was the threat gone forever or merely postponed? No one could say with certainty. But in the observation dome of Unity Station, Admiral Reyes and Ambassador Celan stood side by side, watching Earth turn below them. A blue marble of life in the vastness of space, home to a species that had evolved on a death world and developed the unique capacity to embrace contradiction, to find strength in adversity, and ultimately to communicate across the seemingly unbridgeable gulf between radically different forms of consciousness. "Your people called us Deathworlders," Reyes said quietly. "Perhaps that's true. But living close to death taught us to value life in all its forms, even those we don't fully understand. And my people feared what we did not understand," Celan replied. "We thought your unpredictability was dangerous. Now we see it may be your greatest gift to the galaxy." Together, human and alien watched the stars, knowing that something new was out there now, something changed by contact with humanity, carrying with it the complexities, contradictions, and boundless creativity that defined the species from Earth. Not a victory through destruction, but a transformation through understanding, perhaps the most human achievement of all. The darkness had come seeking consumption and found communion instead, and the universe would never be the same.